What's up, guys? Welcome to Care Coach Lead. This is Andrew Frezza with Austin Bettigrew, and today we're going to be talking about how to master the first pull on your cleans and snatches. And we're going to be sharing our top 3 drills that we like that can be used in a one-on-one setting, and we're going to be talking about how to use them in classes as well to help your group class athletes perfect their Olympic lifts. So we're going to kick it off by showing you one of our first drills. So when we talk about leaving the ground, that first pull of the lift, we're talking about from the setup to the knee, essentially. So if you guys want to hear more about the setup side of things, we recently shot a video where we talked about the nuances between the clean setup and the deadlift setup. But assuming you have a solid setup already, we're going to talk about how to translate that into your first pull. And the drill that we like to really dial this in is what's called a clean liftoff. Okay, so a clean liftoff is getting set up on the ground, and it's just doing your first part of your clean right to the knee. And sometimes with this drill, people will go really to like the bottom of the kneecap. Other times people will go to the top of the kneecap. If you have athletes that really struggle to navigate the knees, I would recommend going to the top of the kneecap so they can get past that point of navigating the knees. But if you're really just working on tension off the floor and that real true initial first pull, then just going to the knees is fine as well. So we really like that drill because it just simplifies the lift and just focusing on that first pull. Now, if you want to build this into a class setting, the way that we like to do this is we'll typically do this as like an EMOM that will lead into an open window where we might be actually building to a heavy clean, or maybe we're going to do some pause cleans. So I want to show you guys how this leads really nicely into a pause clean. Austin can do like 3 liftoffs, and then on his 3rd liftoff, he can go right into a pause clean from that knee position. Okay, so he's doing his 3rd liftoff, pause, and then he can go right into his clean, okay? And so this drill can work nicely in a class setting where maybe the first 5 minutes of your strength, you're doing this drill, you're adding that pause clean, and then at some point you take out the pauses, you take out the lift off, and you let people translate this skill to the full lift. The second drill we're gonna go over is called a floating clean or floating snatch, okay? So with this one, we're actually gonna start on the ground, but we're gonna deadlift all the way up first, okay? And where the floating comes in is we're gonna control the descent, and we're only gonna end up about 1 inch off the ground, 1 to 2 inches off the ground with the plates, and then we'll go right into that clean. So Austin paused for a while, so we'll show you guys now more at real speed what it looks like. He'll deadlift up, he'll come down under control. As soon as he gets to that bottom point, he's gonna change directions and go into that clean. So this is adding both the eccentric to that concentric side, so athletes have feedback on both parts of the lift. And what you find is that athletes who struggle with tension in their setup or struggle with that first pull and they start doing that stripper move, this is really important because it provides the feedback of the weight and it forces them to control those shins. And probably the biggest mistake that we'll see with this is that people will rush that, and you'll see that if they rush it, they'll get off track. So it almost by nature will force them to slow down, but if they're not, just encourage them to slow down that part in the shins as they change directions. And then the final drill I want to show you guys is the 1-inch clean. And this goes really well with the floating clean because you're going to get to the same position that you were in at the bottom of the floating clean, but now you're going to do it pretty much from a standstill. Okay, so you'll get your normal setup in your clean, you're going to get tension, and then you're going to keep tension as you lift off just 1 inch off the ground. So it's essentially just a pause clean, but that pause is happening just barely off the ground, okay? So how this leads in nicely, let's say you do floating cleans in class and someone's starting to look really good. Well, now you can say, okay, that feeling that you had when you were floating, let's translate that feeling to where you were when you're in that 1 inch pause. And then once that 1 inch pause looks good, then you say that feeling, I want you to translate that to when the bar is resting on the floor, you feel that amount of tension. Because oftentimes when people are screwing up that first pull, it's a lack of appropriate tension in their setup. And that's where they're trying to find tension by throwing the hips up, throwing the shoulders up, doing weird stuff with the shoulders, instead of already having tension off the ground and then just maintaining it through that first pull. So every time they do those 1 inch cleans, you want to add that to a regular clean and say, does their 1 inch position off the ground look identical to their position off on the ground? And is it just a difference of where that bar is in space?
Yeah, one thing I want to add on too is Drew's kind of showed you guys how to implement this into group programming as well. But I think you guys can implement this as cues and corrections as well. So if it's you guys are all building to a heavy power clean or heavy squat clean, whatever it may be, you can walk around and actually use these as drills to help individuals based off of mistakes you might see, like a stripper pull, someone yanking off the ground. These are all really good drills to just slow down those positions, and you can kind of watch them move through that space instead of them doing it super dynamic. It like forces them to slow down, and then of course hold the tension throughout.
Yeah, so we like using it in classes as like an EMOM into an open build. We like doing stuff like every minute on the minute or every 75 to 90 seconds you're doing a lift. We actually just did this in our classes today. We did every 90 seconds for 10 rounds. We did a 1-inch clean right into a regular power clean from the ground. And it was a great complex for our classes. And then as Austin was saying, you know, you might just have a day where everyone's doing single power cleans, and you notice a few athletes, oh, this one's got a stripper move, this one's pulling early right from the ground. They're actually going to do 1-inch cleans or floating cleans while the rest of the class is doing the regular cleans. And now you've given them a custom scale that is valuable to them and their needs and their mistakes that they're doing. So hope you guys found this helpful. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below, and we'll see you in the next video.